The Vrexian commander's claws scraped against the steel table as she leaned forward, her 4 eyes narrowing at the human across from her. Lieutenant Kyle Morrison didn't flinch. "You expect me to believe your species survived the Cascade Wars?" Her voice dripped with contempt. "Weak mammals who can barely withstand their own planet's gravity?" The negotiation chamber aboard the orbital station hummed with tension. 3 other Vrexian officers stood behind their commander, each one twice Kyle's size, their exoskeletons gleaming under the harsh lights. The peace talks had been failing for hours. Kyle's jaw tightened. 6 months of this. 6 months of insults, delays, and condescension while Earth's colonies burned. "Commander Zrickstall, we're here to discuss the ceasefire, not biology." She rose to her full height, towering over him. "Your kind should bow, should beg. Instead, you sit there pretending you belong at this table." "Pretending?" Kyle's voice went quiet. "Dangerous." "Yes, pretending you're anything but prey animals who stumbled into the stars." She stepped closer, mandibles clicking in what passed for Vrexian laughter. "You lack true strength, true resilience. You're soft, fragile, weak." Something snapped. Kyle moved before conscious thought caught up. His chair clattered backward as he surged forward, closing the distance in half a heartbeat. Zrickstall's eyes went wide. She started to raise her arms, but human reflexes, gravity-bred and predator-honed, were faster. His hand locked around her throat. Her back slammed against the wall with a metallic boom that echoed through the chamber. The other Vrexians froze, shocked into stillness. "Weak." Kyle's voice was ice, his forearm pressed against her exoskeleton, pinning her completely. "You want to talk about weakness?" Zrickstall's claws scrabbled uselessly against his armor. She tried to speak, but only managed a strangled sound. Her officers reached for weapons. "I wouldn't." Kyle didn't look at them. His eyes stayed locked on Zrickstall. "Your commander wanted to test human strength. Here's your data, the pressure point under her mandible." He'd studied Vrexian anatomy for months. One precise application of force and her entire nervous system screamed. She made a sound he'd never heard from her species before. High, desperate, almost like crying out. "Lieutenant Morrison." The calm voice came from the doorway. Captain Elena Rodriguez stood there, arms crossed. "Release her." Kyle held position for 3 more seconds, long enough to make his point. Then he stepped back. Zrickstall collapsed against the wall, gasping. Her officers rushed forward, but she waved them off with one trembling claw. "The talks," Rodriguez said quietly, "will resume in 1 hour. Commander Zrickstall, I trust you'll reconsider your assessment of human capability." Kyle straightened his uniform. His heart hammered, but his hands were steady. Zrickstall stared at him with all 4 eyes. Something had changed in them, something that looked almost like fear. "Dismissed, Lieutenant," Rodriguez said. Kyle turned and walked out. Behind him, he heard Zrickstall's ragged breathing. The war was about to change. The briefing room was silent, except for the hum of holographic displays. Captain Rodriguez stood at the head of the table, her expression unreadable. Kyle sat rigid in his chair, waiting for the reprimand that never came. "That was either the stupidest thing I've ever seen," Rodriguez said slowly, "or the most brilliant." Kyle blinked. "Ma'am, intelligence reports are flooding in. Every Vrexian channel is talking about what happened. They're calling you the Wall Breaker." She pulled up a display showing alien script scrolling past. Apparently, no one has ever physically dominated a Vrexian commander before. Ever. "I lost control," Kyle admitted. "I should be facing charges." Rodriguez's lips twitched. "Normally, yes. But Commander Zrickstall requested you specifically for the next session. Alone. That's a trap." "Undoubtedly." Rodriguez leaned forward. "But it's also an opportunity. The Vrexians respect strength above all else. You just proved humans have it. Now we need to prove we have intelligence to match." The door hissed open. Lieutenant Cara Bennett entered, carrying a datapad. Her red hair was pulled back tight, and her green eyes were sharp with analysis. "Got the breakdown you wanted, Captain." She glanced at Kyle. "You really rattled them." Vrexian military doctrine doesn't account for species smaller than them being capable of physical dominance. They're scrambling to reassess. Good, Rodriguez said. Kyle, you're going to that meeting. But this time, you'll know exactly what you're walking into. 3 hours later, Kyle stood outside the same negotiation chamber. His pulse was steady, his mind clear. The door opened. Zerixtal stood alone in the center of the room. No guards, no witnesses. Her exoskeleton bore fresh ceremonial markings he didn't recognize. Lieutenant Morrison. Her voice was different, controlled. Enter. Kyle stepped inside. The door sealed behind him with a magnetic clunk. You humiliated me, Zerixtal said. She began circling him slowly. In front of my subordinates, in front of my superiors, watching via transmission. You provoked me. I did. She stopped directly in front of him, close enough that he could see the complex patterns in her eyes. Because I needed to know if the stories were true. What stories? That humans are not what they appear. But beneath the soft flesh lies something dangerous. Something that fought its way out of a death world and survived. Her claws flexed. We Vrexians evolved on a moon with low gravity. We built our strength through enhancement, through technology. But your strength is natural, bred into every cell by a planet that tried to kill you for millions of years. Kyle said nothing. Waited. My species has conquered 47 worlds, Zerixtal continued. We did it through superior force, superior tactics. But we've never faced anyone like you. She moved closer. Do it again. What? Pin me. Prove it wasn't luck. Prove your kind deserves to be here. Kyle's instincts screamed trap, but something in her posture, in the way she held herself, told a different story. This wasn't about dominance. This was about understanding. He moved, faster than before. His training kicked in, every motion precise and efficient. Zerixtal tried to counter, but human combat doctrine was designed for creatures twice their size. He redirected her momentum, used her weight against her, and in 3 seconds she was against the wall again. This time she didn't struggle. She just looked at him with all 4 eyes. Incredible, she whispered. Your species fights like water. Adaptable, relentless. Kyle maintained pressure but reduced it slightly. Why are you really here, Commander? Because the Vrexian Empire is losing. The admission came out raw. We thought we were unstoppable. Then we encountered humanity. Every battle we win costs us more than we can afford. Every colony we take bleeds us dry defending it. Your people don't break. They adapt. They endure. So this is surrender? No. Her mandibles clicked softly. This is respect and a proposal. Kyle released her and stepped back. I'm listening. Strixtal straightened, her exoskeleton scraping against the wall. The real threat isn't humanity or the Vrexian Empire. It's the Void Collective. They're coming from the galactic core, consuming everything. We've lost 12 outer colonies in 3 months. We've heard rumors. They're not rumors. They're reality. She pulled up a holographic display from her wrist device. Kyle's blood went cold at what he saw. Entire star systems going dark. Fleets vanishing without distress calls. The collective doesn't negotiate. It consumes. And neither of our species can stop it alone. Kyle studied the data. The pattern was clear. Methodical. Terrifying. You want an alliance? I want survival, Zerixtal said, and I believe the only way to achieve it is to combine Vrexian technology with human tenacity. Your kind has something we've engineered out of ourselves, something we need. What's that? The ability to fight when victory is impossible, to stand when logic says to flee, to adapt when adaptation seems futile. Her eyes met his. You called it, we call it madness, but it's kept your species alive against impossible odds. The door chimed. Captain Rodriguez's voice came through. Live, Zerixtal? Kyle kept his eyes on Zerixtal. Ma'am, I think you need to hear this. The door opened. Rodriguez entered, followed by Kara Bennett and 3 senior officers. Zerixtal didn't move, didn't show any sign of intimidation. Commander Zerixtal has intelligence about the Void Collective. Kyle said. "And a proposal for alliance." Rodriguez's expression hardened. "We're listening." Zerixtal straightened to her full height. "Then let us discuss how mammals and exoskeletons might save the galaxy together." The command deck of the ESS Valiant thrummed with activity. 72 hours had passed since the Alliance proposal. Now humanity and the Vrexian Empire prepared for something neither had attempted before. A joint military operation. Kyle stood at the tactical display beside Zerixtal. The uneasy partnership had become the center of both species' survival strategy. Around them, human and Vrexian officers worked at adjacent stations, the tension thick enough to cut. "First contact in 20 minutes, Kara announced from her sensor station. Her fingers flew across holographic controls. Void collective scout formation detected at the edge of the Tertius system. Captain Rodriguez stepped forward. "How many?" 15 signatures. Frigate class. Kara's jaw tightened. "They're heading straight for the colony." 3,000 civilians on that planet, Kyle muttered. Mostly miners and their families. Zerixtal's claws tapped against the display. Standard collective pattern. Scouts assess defensive capability, then the harvester ships arrive. "We have 6 hours maximum before the main fleet translates in. Then we stop them here." Rodriguez turned to her crew. "Battle stations. Launch all fighters. Get me firing solutions on those ships." The Valiant shuddered as engines pushed to combat speed. Through the viewport, stars streaked past. Beside them, 3 Vrexian destroyers kept perfect formation, their angular hulls bristling with weapons humanity was just beginning to understand. "Weapons range in 90 seconds, the gunnery officer called out. Kyle watched the tactical display update in real time. The collective ships moved with eerie coordination, no communication between them detectable. They simply acted as one organism. "Something's wrong," he said quietly. Zerixtal's eyes snapped to him. "Explain." "They're not reacting to us. Standard doctrine says they should be repositioning, preparing defensive formations." Kyle highlighted the enemy movement patterns. "They're still on approach vector to the planet, like we don't exist." Rodriguez leaned in. "Tactical assessment?" "They don't see us as a threat," Zerixtal said, her voice hard. "Or they know something we don't." The first salvo from the Vrexian destroyers lit up space. He thought as if he died out. Plasma bolts crossed the distance in seconds, slamming into collective shields. The enemy ships barely slowed. "Return fire," Rodriguez ordered. The Valiant's railguns roared. Tungsten slugs accelerated to a fraction of light speed, punched through space. 2 collective scouts exploded in brilliant flashes. The rest continued forward. "They're adapting," Kara said urgently. "Shield frequencies shifting to counter our weapons." "Rotate firing patterns," Kyle snapped. "Don't give them time to adjust." The battle turned into controlled chaos. Human and Vrexian weapons fired in coordinated sequences, each strike forcing the collective to adapt before the next hit arrived. 3 more scouts went down, then 4, but the survivors reached weapons range. The collective opened fire. Their weapons were different from anything in the database. Not plasma, not kinetic. The beams hit the lead Vrexian destroyer, and the ship simply stopped. No explosion. No debris. It hung in space, dark and lifeless. "What the hell was that?" Rodriguez demanded. "Molecular disruption," Zerixtal breathed. "They're not destroying matter. They're unmaking it at the atomic level." The dead destroyer began to collapse inward, its hull folding like paper. In 30 seconds, a warship capable of glassing planets became a sphere of compressed material the size of a shuttle. Horror rippled through the bridge. "Evasive maneuvers," Rodriguez shouted. "All ships scatter pattern delta." The Valiant banked hard. G-forces slammed everyone against their restraints. Another collective beam cut through space where they'd been seconds before. "We can't win this," one of the human officers said, voice shaking. "Yes, we can." Kyle's mind raced. "Kara, how long do their weapons need to charge between shots?" Analyzing. Her hands flew. 12 seconds. "And how long does it take them to target?" 8 seconds from lock acquisition to firing. Kyle turned to Zerixtal. "Your ships are faster than ours in straight-line speed. Ours are more maneuverable." We use that. Understanding flashed in her eyes. Hit and run. Never stay in their targeting window long enough for lock acquisition. Exactly. Kyle brought up a new tactical formation. Human ships draw fire with evasive patterns. Vrexian ships use the distraction for attack runs. We rotate every engagement. Rodriguez studied the plan for 3 seconds. Do it! All ships, new formation! The human fighters screamed forward in wild, unpredictable patterns. Collective targeting systems tried to track them, but the pilots pushed their ships to limits Vrexian pilots never could. Human bodies evolved under crushing gravity could withstand acceleration that would kill most species. While the collective focused on the dancing fighters, Vrexian destroyers struck from flanking positions. Their plasma weapons chewed through shields already stressed by human railgun fire. 2 more collective scouts died, then 3. But the survivors were learning. Their formation tightened. Their targeting became more predictive. They're adapting to our tactics, Kara warned. Then we change them, Kyle said. Commander Zerkstall, can your ships handle atmospheric entry? We're not designed for it. Why? Kyle highlighted the planet below. Because they won't expect us to use it as cover. The collective focuses on space combat. We take the fight to the upper atmosphere where their sensors will struggle. That's insane, a Vrexian officer protested through the comm. Our ships could burn up. But will they? Kyle pressed. Sirixtal's mandibles clicked rapidly. The Vrexian equivalent of nervous laughter. You truly are mad. I'm beginning to understand why your species survived. She opened fleet-wide comms. All Vrexian ships follow human lead. Atmosphere combat protocols. You don't have atmosphere combat protocols, Kyle pointed out. Then we'll create 'em now. The Valiant dove toward the planet. Behind them, Vrexian destroyers followed. Their crews probably cursing in 3 languages. The remaining collective scouts pursued. The atmosphere hit like a wall. The Valiant's shields screamed under the friction. Warning alarms filled the bridge. Through the viewport, the hull began to glow. Shields at 60%, Kara called out. 50, 40. Hold course, Rodriguez commanded. The collective ships entered atmosphere behind them. Immediately, their formations broke apart. The molecular disruption beams scattered in the dense air, losing cohesion and accuracy. Now! Kyle shouted. The Valiant pulled up hard. The Vrexian destroyers broke left and right. Human fighters swarmed from below, firing upward through the chaos. Railgun slugs tore through collective hulls weakened by atmospheric stress. The remaining scouts tried to retreat back to space. They didn't make it. Combined human and Vrexian fire cut them down one by one until the last exploded in a shower of debris that burned up on re-entry. Silence fell across the comm channels. Threat eliminated, Kara finally said. All collective ships destroyed. Cheers erupted. Human and Vrexian voices mixed together in celebration. But Kyle didn't celebrate. He stared at the tactical display, at the timer counting down. 5 hours until the main fleet arrives, he said quietly. The cheering stopped. Rodriguez nodded slowly. Then we have 5 hours to prepare. And this time, they'll know exactly what we can do. Drickstall moved beside Kyle. The collective learns from every engagement. They've already transmitted all combat data back to the main force. Good, Kyle said. A dangerous smile crossed his face. Let them learn. Let them adapt. Because humanity's spent its entire existence adapting faster than anything trying to kill us. And now we've got partners who think the same way. The Valiant climbed back to orbit, scarred but unbroken. Around the planet, human and Vrexian ships formed a defensive perimeter. The real battle was still coming. The main Void collective fleet translated into real space like a nightmare made manifest. Sensors struggled to count them all. Hundreds of ships, each one larger than anything humanity or the Vrexian Empire had ever built. Kyle stood at the tactical station, his knuckles white against the display edge. The fleet had 4 hours to prepare. Now those hours were gone. Fleet composition analysis complete, Kara said, her voice tight. 237 combat vessels, mass ranging from frigate to what appears to be 3 capital ships the size of orbital stations. Rodriguez didn't flinch. All ships hold formation. The human-Vrexian combined fleet numbered 43 vessels. The math was brutal. The odds were worse. "They're not moving," Zerxtal observed. "Why aren't they advancing?" Kyle watched the enemy formation. Perfect geometric patterns. No communication. No visible command structure. Just hundreds of ships waiting like pieces on a game board. "They're analyzing us," he said, "learning from the scout data, calculating optimal attack vectors. How long do we have? Minutes, maybe less. A transmission burst across all channels. Not words, not language, just raw data streaming directly into every ship's computer core." Kara's screens lit up with cascading information. "They're showing us something," she said, fingers flying across controls. "Translating now." A hologram materialized above the command deck. Star systems, thousands of them, each one marked with a timestamp and a single symbol, consumed. "This is their conquest record," Zerxtal breathed. 47 civilizations, all absorbed, all gone. The hologram zoomed to show specific battles. Species Kyle had never heard of making their last stands, advanced civilizations with technology beyond human understanding. All of them failed. All of them fell. The message was clear. Resistance is futile. Surrender or be erased. "They're trying to break our morale," Rodriguez said. "Standard psychological warfare. It's working," one of the human officers muttered. Kyle slammed his fist on the console. "No, it's not." He turned to face the bridge crew. "Every single one of those civilizations fought alone. None of them had what we have." "And what's that?" Kara asked. "Each other." He gestured between the human and Vrexian crew members. "The collective expects us to fight like every other species they've faced, alone. Predictable, following established doctrine." His voice rose. "But we're not like them. Humans don't follow doctrine when it stops working. We improvise. We adapt. We break every rule if it means survival." Zerxtal's mandibles clicked in agreement, and Vrexians built an empire by understanding that technology must serve the warrior, not replace them. "We fight with precision, with calculation, with patience." Exactly. Kyle pulled up new tactical formations. They've never faced a species that combines chaos with order, instinct with analysis, mammalian aggression with exoskeletal discipline. The collective fleet began moving. The geometric formation shifted, ships repositioning with mechanical efficiency. "Here they come," Rodriguez said. "All ships, weapons free, fight smart, fight together, and make them pay for every meter." The space between the fleets erupted in fire. Collective weapons reached out first, those terrible molecular disruption beams cutting through the void. 2 Vrexian frigates simply ceased to exist, compressed into nothing. But the rest scattered. Human pilots teaching Vrexian captains how to fly like prey animals evading predators. Human railguns opened up. Tungsten rounds, traveling at relativistic speeds, punched through collective shields. 3 enemy ships exploded, then 5, but dozens more pressed forward. "They're focusing fire on individual targets," Kyle observed, "trying to eliminate us one at a time. Then we don't let them." Zerxtal opened fleet-wide comms. "Rotation pattern Sigma. No ship stays in primary target zone more than 10 seconds. The combined fleet began moving like a living thing. Ships darted in and out of formation, never presenting a stable target. When collective weapons locked on, the target was already gone and another ship was firing from a new angle. It was working. Sort of. "We're losing ships faster than we're destroying theirs," Kara reported. "Current attrition rate gives us 40 minutes before fleet combat ineffective." Kyle's mind raced. There had to be something they were missing, some weakness in the collective formation. He studied the tactical display, watching movement patterns, weapon deployments, shield configurations. Then he saw it. "The capital ships," he said urgently. "They're not engaging. They're just sitting in the back of the formation, Rodriguez leaned in. Observation platforms? No. Look at the energy signatures. Kyle highlighted the readings. They're channeling power to the smaller ships. The entire fleet is networked. The capitals are acting as power sources and coordination hubs. Zerxtal's eyes widened. If we destroy the capitals, the entire network collapses. But we can't get through that many ships, Rodriguez countered. We'd be torn apart before we got close. Not if we give them something else to shoot at, Kyle said. A plan formed in his mind. Crazy. Suicidal. Perfectly human. We split the fleet. Most ships engage in frontal assault. Maximum aggression. Draw every collective ship into the fight. And the rest? Micro-jump through slip space. Come out behind their formation. Hit the capitals before they can redirect their forces. The bridge went silent. Every eye turned to Kyle. That's insane, a human officer said. Micro-jumps are barely tested. The calculations required to exit precisely behind enemy lines. Vrexian navigators train for precision jumps. We can calculate the exit vector, but the power requirements for that many ships to jump simultaneously, Kara protested. We don't need many ships. Kyle pulled up a new formation, just the fastest. Human fighters and Vrexian interceptors. Small profile, maximum speed. In and out before they know what hit them. Rodriguez studied the plan. Outside, another human destroyer went dark, its crew lost in an instant. The clock was ticking. How many ships for the strike team? She asked. 20. 10 human fighters, 10 Vrexian interceptors. Success probability? Kyle met her eyes. Honestly, maybe 30%. And if you fail, then the main fleet gets massacred anyway. At least this way we have a chance. Rodriguez turned to Zerxtal. Commander, your assessment? It's the most human plan I've ever heard, Zerxtal said, which means it might actually work. The collective has never encountered tactical unpredictability on this scale. They won't expect it. Rodriguez nodded slowly. All right, make it happen. Lieutenant Morrison, you'll lead the strike team. Ma'am, that's an order. You came up with this madness. You get to execute it. She turned to her crew. Prepare for micro-jump. Navigation, work with Vrexian calculators for exit coordinates. Weapons, I want the main fleet hitting them with everything we've got. Make them think we're desperate. We are desperate, someone muttered. Then let's show them what desperate humans can do, Rodriguez replied. Kyle ran for the hangar bay. Behind him, Zerxtal followed. You're coming? He asked. Someone needs to keep you mammals from dying stupidly, she said. Besides, I want to see the look on the collective's sensors when we appear behind them. They reached the hangar. 20 ships waited, engines already warming. Human pilots and Vrexian crews performed final checks. Kyle climbed into his fighter, the cockpit sealing around him with a familiar hiss. All strike team ships, report status, he transmitted. One by one, confirmations came back. Human voices and Vrexian clicks mixed together. Navigation calculations complete. Kara's voice came through. Slipspace window opening in 30 seconds. Exit point will be 3,000 kilometers behind collective capital formation. You'll have maybe 90 seconds before they reposition. 90 seconds to kill 3 capital ships, Kyle said. No pressure. Morrison. Rodriguez's voice cut in. Bring them home. Yes, ma'am. The countdown began. Kyle's hands were steady on the controls. His heart hammered, but his mind was clear. This was what humans did best, charging into impossible situations and somehow making them work. 10 seconds, Kara counted. 9. The main fleet engaged at maximum aggression, every weapon firing, every ship pushing forward. The collective fleet responded exactly as predicted, concentrating fire on the threat in front of them. 3, 2, 1. Jump. Reality twisted. The slipspace tunnel opened and swallowed 20 ships. For 3 seconds that felt like eternity, Kyle existed between dimensions. Then space snapped back. They emerged directly behind the 3 massive collective capital ships. All ships weapons free, Kyle shouted. Hit them hard and fast. 20 ships screaming forward, weapons blazing. The element of surprise absolute. The collective capitals began to turn that they were too slow, too massive. Built for coordination, not combat. Human railguns and Vrexian plasma converged on the first capital. Shields flared and failed. Hull plating vaporized. The ship tried to maneuver, but fighters were already inside its defensive perimeter. Target the power nodes, Zerextal transmitted. Midship sections, port, and starboard. The strike team split into coordinated attack runs. Kyle's targeting system locked on. He fired. The railgun slugs punched through weakened armor and detonated something critical inside. The capital ship shuddered, then exploded from the inside out. One down. The explosion from the first capital ship sent debris cascading through space. Kyle pulled his fighter into a hard roll, narrowly avoiding a chunk of hull plating the size of a building. Around him, the strike team scattered and regrouped with practiced precision. Second target mark, Zixtal's voice cut through the chaos. Her interceptor streaked ahead, painting the next capital ship with targeting lasers. But the collective was adapting. The remaining two capitals began emergency power redistribution. Their networked fleet, suddenly missing a third of its coordination hub, stuttered in confusion. Smaller ships broke formation, turning back toward the strike team. "We've got incoming," a human pilot called out. 40-plus frigates vectoring our position. Kyle checked his tactical display. The window was closing fast. Maybe 60 seconds before they were overwhelmed. "Split attack pattern," he ordered. "Human fighters take the escorts. Vrexian interceptors stay on capital targets." His fighter dove into the swarm of approaching collective ships. Human pilots followed, their smaller craft weaving through enemy fire with reflexes born from a high-gravity world. The collective weapons tried to track them, but human pilots flew like nothing in their database. Kyle's targeting system screamed warnings. Enemy fire crisscrossed around him. He pushed his fighter into a spin that would have killed most species, the G-forces crushing against his chest. His vision tunneled, but his hand stayed steady. How it could have slipped outside of our perimeters. He fired. Railgun rounds tore through a collective frigate's engine core. The enemy ship went dark and tumbled away. "Vrexian team, status," he transmitted while evading another salvo. "Engaging second capital," came the response. "Their shields are stronger than the first. We need more firepower." Kyle glanced at his ammunition counter, half depleted already. The other human fighters were probably in similar condition. They couldn't sustain this much longer. Then inspiration hit. Crazy. Reckless. Absolutely human. All human fighters. Converge on my position. Kyle banked hard toward the second capital ship. "We're gonna punch through their shields the old-fashioned way." "Morrison, that's suicide!" one of the pilots protested. "Only if we're slow." "Match my vector and prepare for ramming speed." "You're insane." "Probably. Do it anyway." 9 human fighters fell into formation behind Kyle. Their engines screamed as they accelerated directly toward the massive capital ship. The collective shields shimmered ahead, a barrier of energy designed to stop conventional weapons. But fighters weren't conventional weapons, not when pilots were willing to use them as missiles. "Shields to maximum forward," Kyle commanded. "Engines to full burn. On my mark." We punched through and scatter. The distance closed. 1,000 meters. 500. The capital ship's point defense systems opened fire, but the fighters were too fast, too erratic. 200 meters. "Now!" 10 fighters hit the collective shields simultaneously. The combined kinetic energy of 10 ships traveling at combat speed focused on a single point, then collapsed inward with a flash of light that lit up the entire battlefield. "Break! Break! Break!" Kyle pulled up hard. The fighters scattered in all directions. Behind them, the capital ship's shields flickered and died. Vrexian interceptors didn't waste the opportunity. Plasma weapons poured through the gap, cutting deep into the capital's exposed hull. Secondary explosions rippled across its surface. "Core breach detected," Zerextal reported. "Clear the blast zone." The second capital ship tore itself apart. The explosion was even larger than the first, a miniature sun blooming in the void. 2 down, 1 to go, but the price was mounting. Kyle's tactical display showed 3 human fighters gone, 2 Vrexian interceptors damaged and retreating. The remaining collective escorts were closing in, their formation tightening, and the 3rd capital ship was running. "It's trying to jump to slip space," Kara's voice came through from the Valiant. "If it escapes, it'll coordinate the entire collective fleet from a safe distance. You'll lose your advantage." Kyle's eyes tracked the massive ship. It was already building energy for a jump, its engines glowing brighter by the second. Too far away. They'd never reach it in time. Unless they did something even crazier than before. "Zrixdal, can your interceptors handle a tow cable at full burn?" There was a pause. "In theory." "Why?" "Because we're going to slingshot." Kyle pulled up a rapid calculation. Human fighters latch onto Vrexian interceptors. You use your superior straight-line speed to accelerate us past maximum velocity. Then we detach and use momentum to close the distance before it jumps. That violates at least 6 principles of safe navigation. Good thing we're not interested in safe. Kyle was already maneuvering toward the nearest Vrexian interceptor. "All ships, pair up. Humans on Vrexian tow." The strike team executed the maneuver with barely controlled chaos. Magnetic grapples locked fighters to interceptors. The combined vessels looked ridiculous, awkward, completely against any reasonable engineering principle. "Engaging full burn in 3 seconds, Zrixdal transmitted. "Humans, your inertial dampeners better hold." "They'll hold," Kyle lied. He had no idea if they would. The Vrexian engines fired. Acceleration slammed Kyle back into his seat. His vision grayed at the edges. The G-forces were insane. His fighter's frame groaned under the stress. But they were gaining. The fleeing capital ship grew larger in his viewport. Its jump sequence was almost complete. Energy crackled around its hull. 15 seconds to jump, Kara warned. 14. 13. Detach in 5. Zrixdal counted down. 4. 3. 2. 1. Release! The magnetic grapples disengaged. Kyle's fighter shot forward like a bullet from a railgun. The momentum from the Vrexian tow carried him at speeds his ship was never designed for. Warning alarms screamed. Hull temperature spiked. He didn't care. He locked weapons on the capital ship's jump drive. So did 6 other human fighters. They fired simultaneously. Railgun rounds traveling at combined relativistic velocity slammed into the capital's engine core just as the jump sequence reached critical. The result was catastrophic. The half-formed slip-space tunnel collapsed inward. The capital ship tried to exist in 2 dimensions at once. Physics rebelled. The ship imploded with a flash of exotic radiation that painted the entire battlefield in colors that shouldn't exist. 3 down. All capital ships destroyed. "Strike team, report," Kyle called out, fighting to slow his fighter to survivable speeds. The responses came back. 4 human fighters lost in total. 3 Vrexian interceptors damaged but functional. 13 ships remained from the original 20. But the collective fleet was breaking apart. Without their capital coordination hubs, the networked ships floundered. Their perfect geometric formations dissolved into chaos. Individual ships made conflicting decisions, firing on each other by mistake, colliding in space. "Main fleet, push forward!" Rodriguez's voice rang across all channels. "Hit them while they're disorganized." The human Vrexian combined fleet surged ahead. What had been a desperate defensive stand became a rout. Collective ships tried to retreat, but their coordination was gone. They were just individual vessels now, each one vulnerable. The battle turned into a slaughter. Kyle watched from his fighter as enemy ships fell one after another. Plasma and railgun fire carved through formations that no longer existed. Within minutes, the collective fleet was running. Within an hour, it was destroyed. Silence fell across the battlefield. Debris fields stretched for thousands of kilometers. The cost had been brutal. 20 human ships lost. 15 Vrexian vessels destroyed or crippled. Thousands of crew dead. But they'd won. "All ships cease fire," Rodriguez ordered. "Begin search and rescue operations. Recover all survivors." Kyle guided his fighter back toward the Valiant's hangar. His hands were shaking now, adrenaline finally fading. Around him, the surviving strike team did the same. They landed to find the hangar packed with crew, human and Vrexian alike. As Kyle climbed out of his cockpit, they began to applaud. The sound echoed off the metal walls. Xeric Stahl emerged from her interceptor, exoskeleton scorched and cracked in places. She walked directly to Kyle. For a moment, they just looked at each other. Then she placed one claw on his shoulder, a Vrexian gesture of deepest respect. "You are no weak mammal, Lieutenant Morrison," she said quietly. "You are a warrior, and it has been my honor to fight beside you." Kyle managed a tired smile. "Likewise, Commander." Rodriguez appeared, her uniform dirty and torn, but her expression victorious. "The Tertius colony is reporting all clear. 3,000 civilians safe. The collective fleet is scattered across 6 star systems, running for their lives." "Did we stop them?" Kyle asked. "Really stop them?" "For now." Rodriguez looked out at the debris field. "But they'll be back." "The Void Collective doesn't give up. They adapt. They learn." "So do we," Xeric Stahl said. "And now we adapt together." Captain Rodriguez nodded. "Lieutenant Morrison, preliminary reports are already reaching Earth Command and Vrexian High Council. What we did here today, this alliance, it's going to change everything. The war isn't over, but for the first time, we might actually have a chance to win it." Kyle looked around the hangar, human and Vrexian crew working side by side. Species that had been enemies days ago now trusting each other with their lives. "Then we'd better get ready," he said, "because when the collective comes back, they're going to find something they've never encountered before." "What's that?" Rodriguez asked. Kyle's smile turned fierce. "An alliance that fights like humans and thinks like Vrexians. Chaos and order. Instinct and calculation. The best of both our species combined." Zerixtel's mandibles clicked in approval. The collective consumed 47 civilizations, but those civilizations fought alone. Her 4 eyes gleamed. "We will not." 6 months later, Kyle stood on the observation deck of Arcturus Station, the first joint human-Vrexian military installation ever constructed. Beyond the viewport, a fleet unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen prepared for deployment. 300 ships, human and Vrexian, working as one. "Still seems impossible," Kara said beside him. She'd been promoted to commander after the Battle of Tertius. 6 months ago, we were enemies. Now look at us. Kyle watched a human carrier launch fighters in perfect coordination with Vrexian destroyers. The crews had trained together, bled together, learned to trust each other completely. "The collective forced us to evolve," he said. "Turns out we're pretty good at it." Footsteps echoed behind them. Zerxtal approached, her exoskeleton now bearing the insignia of the Joint Defense Command. Rodriguez walked beside her, stars on her collar marking her new rank as Admiral. "Final intelligence reports just came in," Rodriguez said. "The collective is massing near the galactic core. Biggest fleet they've ever assembled. Over 2,000 ships. They're coming for Earth and the Vrexian homeworld simultaneously," Zerxtal added. "A 2-pronged assault, designed to break our alliance by forcing us to choose which planet to defend." Kara's face went pale. "We can't split our forces. We'd lose both battles." "We're not splitting our forces," Kyle said quietly. He pulled up a holographic tactical display. "We're doing what they don't expect, again." The hologram showed a different approach. Instead of defending either homeworld, the combined fleet would strike directly at the collective staging area, hit them before they could launch their attack. "That's their strongest position," Rodriguez observed. "They'll have every advantage. Except one," Kyle said. "They still don't understand what we've become. The collective sees warfare as mathematics. Superior numbers equal victory. They've never faced an enemy that makes the impossible work through sheer stubborn refusal to quit." Zerxtal's mandibles clicked with something that might have been laughter. "You want to attack 2,000 ships with 300? I want to show them that humanity's greatest strength isn't technology or firepower. It's the ability to stand up when any sane species would stay down. And I want to prove that when you combine that with Vrexian precision and tactical brilliance, you get something the collective can't calculate, can't predict, can't stop." Rodriguez studied the plan. Around them, the station hummed with activity. Human and Vrexian voices mixed in a dozen languages, working toward a common goal. "The Council will never approve this," she finally said. "They don't have to." Sixtall straightened to her full height. The Vrexian Empire and humanity are no longer separate entities seeking approval from distant bureaucrats. We are an alliance, and alliances make their own decisions. Rodriguez smiled. "Then I guess we're committed. Admiral's prerogative. Commander Zurichstall, prepare the fleet for immediate deployment." "With pleasure, Admiral." The next 48 hours passed in controlled chaos. Ships loaded ammunition. Crews ran final drills. Intelligence teams analyzed every scrap of data on the collective staging area. Kyle barely slept, coordinating attack patterns with Vrexian strategists. Then the fleet launched. 300 ships jumped to slipspace together. The tunnel opened like a wound in reality, and they poured through. Destination: the edge of the galactic core where the collective fleet waited. They emerged into hell. 2,000 collective ships filled the viewport. Geometric formations, stretching across millions of kilometers. Capital ships the size of moons. Weapons platforms that could crack planets. All of it turning toward the tiny combined fleet with mechanical precision. "Fleet-wide transmission," Rodriguez ordered. All channels. Every screen in every ship lit up with her image. 6 months ago, humanity and the Vrexian Empire were at war. Today we stand together against an enemy that has consumed 47 civilizations. The collective believes we will break, that our alliance is temporary, convenient, that we'll abandon each other when the pressure becomes too great. She paused, letting her words sink in. They're wrong. Because we've learned something fighting beside each other. Humans taught Vrexians that sometimes you have to throw away the calculations and trust your instinct. Vrexians taught humans that chaos is most effective when guided by precision. Together, we've become something neither species could be alone. The collective fleet began moving. Perfect formations. Inevitable advance. "So here's what we're going to do," Rodriguez continued. "We're going to charge directly into that fleet. We're going to hit them with everything we have. And we're going to keep hitting them until they break or we do. Because that's what our alliance means. We don't retreat. We don't surrender. We adapt, we improvise, and we win." She leaned forward, her expression fierce. "All ships, attack formation. Show them what happens when mammals and exoskeletons fight together." The combined fleet surged forward. 300 ships against 2,000. The mathematics were absurd. The tactics were insane. It was the most human Vrexian thing ever attempted. The collective opened fire. Space itself seemed burned. Molecular disruption beams reached out to unmake reality, but the combined fleet scattered into patterns no computer could predict. Human pilots flew with inspired madness while Vrexian gunners calculated firing solutions with impossible precision. Ships died. Humans and Vrexians both. But for every vessel lost, the combined fleet adapted, shifted, found new ways to strike. Kyle's fighter dove through a gap in the collective formation that existed for exactly 3 seconds. Zurichstall's interceptor followed, their movements synchronized perfectly. They'd trained together for months, fought together, nearly died together. Now they moved like extensions of the same mind. "Target acquisition," Zurichstall transmitted. "Collective command ship, Sector 7. Confirmed," Kyle responded. "Strike Team Alpha. Converge at my position." 20 fighters and interceptors materialized around them. The same type of mixed force that had won at Terrius. Proven tactics. Refined through countless simulations. They hit the command ship like a hammer. Human railguns punched holes. Vrexian plasma exploited the breaches. The ship tried to defend, but the strike team was already gone, scattering before retaliation could land. Across the battlefield, the same pattern repeated. Small mixed units hitting with precision and chaos combined. The collective tried to adapt, but adaptation required time. The combined fleet gave them none. Hours passed. The battle became a brutal grind. Ships on both sides burning, dying, but slowly. Impossibly. The collective formation began to crack. Their coordination is failing, Kara reported from her command ship. The networked structure can't handle our attack patterns. We're overwhelming their processing capability. All forces, maintain pressure, Rodriguez ordered. Don't let them reorganize. The combined fleet pushed harder, humans fighting past exhaustion through sheer determination. Vrexians maintaining tactical precision even as their ships fell apart around them. And finally, the collective broke. It started with one ship fleeing, then 10, then hundreds. The geometric perfection dissolved into panic. The enemy fleet that had seemed invincible scattered across the galaxy. The combined fleet didn't pursue. They'd won. Against impossible odds. Against overwhelming force. They'd actually won. Kyle guided his battered fighter back toward the nearest carrier. His screens showed the cost. 93 ships lost, thousands dead. Both species bled together in victory. But they'd stopped the collective, shattered their greatest fleet, proven that the alliance wasn't just political convenience. It was real. He landed to find the hangar, packed again, humans and Vrexians embracing, celebrating, mourning their dead together. Zerextel found him in the chaos. Her exoskeleton was cracked, leaking fluid. One of her eyes was damaged. But she was alive. "We did it," she said simply. "We did," Kyle agreed. "Think they'll come back? Eventually. The collective doesn't give up." She looked out at the celebrating crew. "But neither do we. Not anymore." Rodriguez appeared looking exhausted but triumphant. "Intelligence is reporting collective fleets retreating across 40 systems. The enemy is in full withdrawal. Whatever they thought about our alliance, they know the truth now." "What's that?" Kyle asked. "That when humans and Vrexians fight together, we're unstoppable." Rodriguez smiled. "Earth Command is already calling this the Battle of Unity. History books will talk about it for centuries." Kyle watched a human engineer helping a Vrexian technician repair a damaged interceptor. 6 months ago, they would have been enemies. Now they worked together like they'd been partners forever. "The collective made a mistake," he said quietly. "They united us against them, forced us to see past our differences, made us stronger than either species could have been alone." Zrixtal's remaining good eye gleamed. "You called me out months ago. Pinned me to a wall when I called your kind weak mammals. I remember. I was wrong. Your species isn't weak. Mine isn't superior. We're different, and together, those differences make us formidable." Kyle extended his hand. Zerixta looked at it for a moment, then wrapped her claw around it carefully. "Human and Vrexian, mammal and exoskeleton, partners." The observation screen showed the galaxy beyond. Somewhere out there, the collective was regrouping, planning, adapting. But so were they. And this time,